That's the technique. It's looking. That's why it's better already. Yeah. 54, 55. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say that. Don't say it. I'm not going to say it. Yes.
Battery pack to this camera. Thank you. And
do you want me to deliver this or you want?
wow, this is smooth as mate. Oh, looking good. Jesus.
It's just a simple overload. It's my bad as well. No, it happens in IT.
Holy shit. This is fucking like real time.
Chucky, can you please assume position?
Yep.
Chucky, also, sorry to unload you, where am I delivering this to?
This camera will snap it here, just next to the trailer. And put the switcher on.
From around the corner through the racing centre, please into the line and try to get my side.
50 lining up now. Raymond Wilkinson from Incargill started competing in motorsport in 1992. This is his first time competing at the Ashley Forest Rallysport. So welcome. Really critical, and obviously where the start position is. The road's hung up with a few cars over it already, but of course when those ruts start to appear, it becomes a little more difficult getting off the line, or maybe better because you get down to a solid base. I think it's just this class, virtually most of the cars are Toyota starts Corollas. Torino's virtually the same thing, but she's pretty much a Toyota dominated class in the and Raymond Wilkinson on the course at the moment, car number 50 from 5315 is the split. The hairpin.
Raymond Wilkinson is standing ahead down towards the hotel zipper before he comes around to the
she didn't punch for that. And it's got pictures, as you can see on our live streaming. Now the boys are refigured, looking very, very good on this beautiful North Canterbury day. Here comes Raymond Wilkinson across the finish line, and we wait for his time. 1:35.19. So lost a little bit of time coming down with it. Now here we have a car driver, a co-driver rather, taking over the driving wheel this time. This is John Renshaw from Marlborough, car number 49. Of course, Johnny normally co-drives with one of the Owen brothers. So this is the first time competing at the Ashley Forest Rallysport. So from the left-hand side to the right-hand side, here's Johnny Renshaw, the 1600cc Toyota. Rally fans will certainly know the Owen brothers' contribution to the sport over many, many years. On the circuit, they've been by Sealand boys over a long time, driven everything. From Formula Pacific through the rally cars, last few years it's been rallying, including shared drives all the way through. Didn't have a look on the co-drivers to see whether one of the Owens was sitting on the side, but yes, they'll be giving him plenty of advice on how to be an understatement. 54 at the top.
Interesting to note, the Supercars Indoor Raceway, York 1300cc class, top runners are actually quicker at this stage than the Southern Salvage 1301.
Of course, a lot about an event like this actually for us is just the personal individual satisfactions of lowering your times as you compete during the weekend, and hopefully it's good enough to give you a good class position or a podium shot perhaps.
I can't, yeah.
No different.
Thank you. It's smooth. It's just improved like 100%. It's just amazing, man. It's amazing. It's just real. I don't know what they did, but they did something very well. Oh, it's shame.
And welcome to the start line now, car number 48, which is Shane McKenzie. And Shane, of course, through his Paddon Tyres service in Radio, is one of our live streaming sponsors. Thank you, Shane. Talk about second generation drivers coming through. I suppose you could almost say this is a second generation tyre shop owner, because Shane, of course, has taken over from Father Graham and now been rebranded as Carter's Tyre Store in Rangiora. I mentioned, of course, they have two stores, one in High Street and one in Flaxton Road in Rangiora. The High Street store, you can take your car there for new tyres, balancing, wheel alignments, and now they do warranted fitness and servicing at High Street for Carter's Tyres as well in Rangiora. And for commercial and trucks, head to the Flaxton Road Centre, 2 outlets for Carter's Tyres. And thank you to Shane for being one of our live streaming sponsors over this weekend. As Shane heads up.
Yeah, well done, Shane.
And his Carter's Tyres. Of course, originally Shane competed in the 1300 class in his car. He's obviously put a slightly bigger donkey in it now, and it's running in the 1600cc class. .51.09 for Shane to the Gallagher Headman, and here he comes down through the finish line. For 1:20.83 for Shane McKenzie. And we talked earlier about the generations. Well, here we are, young Taylor Judd, of course, the son of well-known rally exponent, driver and co-driver, of course, Jeff Judd. Also, Jeff's had his fair share on the circuit as well. But nice to see the Toyota Star and Toyota Corolla. And I think his other brother, a younger, I guess, Harry does co-driving as well. So the whole family's involved in the motorsport, particularly in rallying. And it's great to see Taylor Judd out there in the Magnum sponsored Toyota DX also, live streaming sponsors for the Winmax Race Pads Extra Forest Race Sprint 2018. As we look at the pictures of Taylor heading up to the Heller Airport.
So he's had a spin by the sound, but Taylor has had a spin halfway up the hill. So so maybe halfway up. Uphill King Sport Numbers has just caught Taylor out just before he got to the Harry Hampton. So time is going to be great. Well, the 25-year-old just coming into Greece, they want to do.
And I guess if you have a moment on this qualification run, it's not quite so bad, is it? Because it's not sudden death. There's always next time. Down through the finish line, here comes Taylor Judd, car number 47. see the that view, the able to see is certainly breathtaking, isn't it? It certainly is. And haven't got a better day to enjoy the view today either. It's really a cracker day. This could be, oh sorry, this is a double entry, so maybe it's a double entry because it wasn't met when the car the first time. The program is right, so we'll put there and check that out.
It'll be interesting to see what Matt's system, whether his times, how they compare with the 1300cc supercars.
Again, competing 3 years ago, this is his third time to Rallysport. He's also, oh here we are, he's also driving a Toyota Starlet in the 1300 class, so there we are. So, 2-car family, 2 Toyota Starlets, one with 1300 and one 1600. And we've had a spinner. The spin just before the hairpin, we're hearing again, but up with the hairpin around, so it's catching a few out. Quite to the hairpin.
Of the weekend, that's why there are plenty of runs throughout the weekend where you can improve your tyres, improve your driving range, and improve the nuts behind the wheel. It might be a bit loose. But Matt will head down through the hotel circuit, down towards the
through the finish line,
engines and tyres, finish line, the camo tyres finish line, and this will be a slower time. Still giving it a good go as he comes through the finish
backed
line.
off a wee bit coming through the finish line, so I guess knowing that he's already lost.
He's got a little frontal damage there.
He has got a wee bit of frontal damage on his car, so something got nudged on the way up in the spin, obviously. Number 45 comes to the start box now. Bateman with the leader. Of course, Richard also has run Sparrow Presses too in the all-wheel drive rallying as well. So Richard's in the Toyota Starlet, 1340cc for this one. So again, not the maximum engine capacity in this class, which goes 1600. But probably doesn't make too much difference when you're on the downhill run. It's just the get up the top. Richard's also driving his Mitsubishi Evo 9, Mitsubishi Evos Rally Series. Not a good start.
Yes, ma'am.
We're having really bad problems with the mic. Nothing at all.
You have what?
The mic is not working at all.
Really?
Yeah. If you want to listen to it, no, you can't obviously.
It's dropping.
It's like click, you hear a little bit of talking.
This is the eighth time that Richard has competed here for the Rallysport.
Okay.
Can we do it back up?
Yeah.
Yeah, where is it?
He's in the Rally Championship this year.
In my
Finally getting it up and going.
in my neck case,
Yes.
there's this little black. You'll find it on the right hand side. Open the black case, on the right hand side. This little case.
Maybe he's also had a spin. Apparently delayed with a spin on the way to the other in this circumstance. And might have had a So not indicative of a clean time run for Richard at all. As we don't have too many so we move to the next class round.
So as we've got Phil Walker on the course in his Mazda RX-7, Phil started rallying at the age of 17 before spending 3 seasons racing Formula Fords. Now this is Phil's 4th time competing at the Ashley Forest Rally Sprint. And of course Mazda RX-7s, we mentioned the late Kim Austin, of course he held the 2-wheel drive record in his RX-7 for many years. Oh, as he gives it a little bit out sideways coming.
Yeah, and he was the first go under the minute in his 4-wheel drive RX-7.
Now, man, who I'm looking forward to see is Derek Asen, his second visit to the Winmax Ashley Forest Rally Sprint.
And next up on the course, car number 42, which is Derek Asen, all the way from Gore in his Ford Escort. And this is running 2,350cc in this one. So Derek started rallying in 1998. He's won a number of national rally championships, competing for the 2nd time here at Ashley
Michael Kelly, Auto Electric, Indus, Marineland, South Otago Custom, and Nathan McDermott.
Nice indeed to see Derek Asen here competing in the event. I know when we were doing our live streaming from Hamner Forest, we got a Facebook message come through from Derek wishing us luck. It's nice to see him here behind the wheel and competing in this event. And incidentally, if you are watching our live streaming coverage through whichever Facebook platform you are watching, you are more than welcome to send us a message, and it'd be nice to know where you are viewing the live streaming coverage from. We understand from not only throughout New Zealand, but we also have people joining us from overseas. So welcome into the live streaming coverage of the Winmax Brake Pads Ashley Forest Rally Sprint for 2018. As we start continue through our first qualifying run here.
So Derek should be coming through the finish line with fair pace. This should be a good time. This should put him at the top. 1:13.11.
1:13.11 for Derek Asen in the Ford Escort, and that is the fastest time
So the next car up to the line
on the course so far. So here we have Jim Tennant now coming slightly out of orbit. Car number 44 here is Jim Tennant from Christchurch.
One who has done a couple of
Jim had this car recently out at the Hamner Forest Rally. They had a few issues with the car. They managed to get it fixed and he continued on. So nice to see Jim back with the Nissan 240 RS in those great Nissan colours that we historically know
Yeah,
red, white and blue.
Well, Nissan as a factory team had the 240 RS back in its day. The Stanza was its first works team, and then the 240 RSs carried on. I remember Reg Cook and Tony Teasdale here doing national championships in 240 RSs back in the 80s.
That's right, and their cars, I think one of them was the old Shaker Meter car that came in from South Africa. And I wonder if this is one of these cars that's still here. I mean, there was 3 of those cars in the country, but we don't see them too often these days. So Jim Tennant started rallying in 1979 in a Vauxhall Chevette, 4th time competing at the Ashley Forest Rally Sprint, and he's also going to be driving a Toyota Altessa this weekend.
Are we out of
51.46 to the Hella Hairpin. Well, Jim Tennant, he'll come down by the Flower Tavern.
okay?
Dipper.
We're gone.
So we're just waiting for Jim Tennant to come down the downhill path. Here he comes.
Gentlemen, Jim Tennant, and looking for the time. 1:20.99 for Jim Tennant.
1:20.99 for Jim Tennant. So yes, a wee way off Derek Ason's time for this class to catch. 7 seconds adrift. But as we say, this is just the first run for the guys today to get their iron, you might say, and the times will continually get faster as the day goes on. So lining up now is Bert Murray, car number 41. He's bogged it down off the start line. And Bert from Waimate in the Group B Mazda RX-7. He's the Central Region champion. He won the 2008 New Zealand Classic Rally Championship in the RX-7. This is his ex-Richard Kelsey RX-7 and is a sister car to Rod Millen's RX-7. So a little bit of history behind that car, and it looks absolutely splendid in
We're not showing anything.
his
Well, Murray, of course, he's a former National Classic
Mazda colours.
champion in the car that was very famous, made famous in the hands of Neil Allport, the main brake RX-7.
So the second of the RX-7s we've seen on the course here today.
Yeah, it was actually the first car to go under the minute was indeed it was a RX-7, two-wheel drive RX-7, and it was Rod Millen when he won here in 1988.
Correct.
At this stage to the Hella Hairpin. Here he comes through the Kumo.
Here comes Bert.
Line for Bert Murray, because he's going to have a great battle, I believe, with Derek Aitken this weekend.
So
1:14.99.
1:14.99. They talk about the fact that this might be a great battle between Bert Murray and Derek Aitken this weekend. Waimate versus Gore, and just over a second, nearly 2 seconds between them. So it looks like it is indeed shaping up to be a good class battle between those two. As we now have car number 38 coming to the start line, which is Gavin Reid, another from the south, in Invercargill. And this is a rather unusual car to see, a BMW.
Yeah, I can't remember seeing maybe Ari Pettigrew with his 318 has done this. That's a 328 that one is, which, yeah, well, I guess it'd be interesting, I suppose. They've handled all right.
I guess that's the great thing about rally sprinting, Lindsay, is that unlike a conventional rally where you get more of the conventional rally cars, here there's all sorts. Whatever you can make, and there's virtually no rules. You can put any engine in anything, and
that's right. And there's no other avenues around for that sort of thing now, just apart from the club sprints and hill climbs, and this fits well into that, and it's got all the glamour and glory of something quite special.
Of course, Gavin has been involved in motorsport as an organiser and a competitor, This is his first time competing here at the Ashley Forest Rally Sprint, so really nice to see so many novice drivers making their debut here at this very iconic event. As Lindsay mentioned, first run, not in this format, but back in 1979. The uphill-downhill course, of course, has been going since 1980. As Gavin Reid comes through the finish line, we just wait for his time. 1:18.78 is the time for Gavin Reid.
We're back again now, that's good.
It should be the 56-year-old
An unusual car to see in a rally sprint.
Well, another one that's an unusual car, and this is especially strange to see in a rally sprint, isn't it?
It is.
It'd be a nightmare to handle on the gravel, I'd imagine.
I see, but I'm sure with a name like Yogi, he's got it under control.
I'm sure he has.
So the Holden Commodore takes off from the start line, certainly spitting a few stones and plenty of dust off the start line from the Holden Commodore. Steve comes from Kaiapoi, and with 5 litres in this, no wonder it's creating plenty of dust. And can we see the course yet? Yes, we can. Here we go.
Winmax brake pads Ashley Forest a rally sprint last year.
So this is in the unlimited 2-wheel drive class, of course, and last year he finished 3rd in the unlimited 2-wheel drive class, but he blew a gearbox in the runoff, so he'll be hoping all those gears in the Holden hold together for this one. He's up to the hairpin.
Well, the Holden's holding together so far, all right, that's right.
It is indeed.
And he's on the downward run now.
50.23 to the Hella hairpin.
That's not bad, 50.23 to the hairpin.
A little bit off Gavin Reid's time up to the hairpin, the Hella hairpin. He will head down towards the Flower Hotel Zipper and head towards the Lead Engines and Tyres, Kumo Tyres finish line.
Okay. What up?
Time.
We're going to move.
We're
going to move.
And he's made it through, weaving and diving as he comes through the finish line, but Steve's got the big Holden down, and let's just see what his time is for the 5 litre Holden Commodore.
In rally, so 1:21.98
1:21.98
of Kaiapoi
for Steve.
This is car 37. This is Suzuki Ignis from Amberley,
and Jeff Coombe, car number 37 from Amberley in the Toyota Ignis, running 2000cc, so only 3 litres less than the Holden. Probably a lot lighter and smaller, no doubt.
Yeah.
Front wheel drive, so
He took off very well, Grant. That was very smooth. He got good power on there.
of course you don't want to have too much of the gas and be wheel spinning too much off the start line and going nowhere. That doesn't help your time at all, does it?
He was going well then. Yeah, good traction of course there.
So Jeff certainly has an extensive background in motorsport. He's competed in the Ashley Forest Rally Sprint several times before, and this Suzuki Ignis is in WRC spec.
There you go.
There you go. It was built by Rally Art and Ron McMillan for the New Zealand Rally class in the 0 to 2000cc class. So there he is, Jeff Coombe from Amberley, well known in North Canterbury motorsport rally sprint circles.
Well, Jeff has been in motorsport for a number of years.
And
He's raced the likes of Mini 7. And we're about to get a time for the Hella hairpin. 50.21.
50.21, so
right
that's
there
not bad. He's the
That's a
5 litre Holden did 50.27, so that's very good. Very good time.
It just shows you the car is well spec'd though, and the way that took off, it was very, very smooth. There's things in there that are not normal.
For your normal Suzuki Swift. Indeed.
1:21.05.
of Jeff Coombs.
So quicker downhill, not surprising, than the big Holden.
Brought to you by Canterbury. Now this car coming up to the line, this is one that we've seen here years ago.
Car number 35. Paul Mullen. Paul comes from Leaston in his Datsun 1200. Running 3 litres, so Paul's Datsun 1200 is powered by a 1.8 litre Nissan CA18 engine. He last competed here 2014.
Now it's got a 1.8 Nissan CA18 engine in it, and this Datsun 1200.
And that was a very, also talking of starts, a very good start there, Lindsay, from Paul. The last thing he'd be wanting to do in the early stages of this event is breaking drive lines and gearboxes and things off the start line.
That's you're right. The risk of doing that is actually high, isn't it? You get that wrong, and on the stress is unbelievable.
Indeed.
So Paul will be making his way up the uphill section of the course, up through to the uphill kick, before getting to Notice and then heading towards the Halla hairpin. And see what time he can do to the Halla hairpin.
So Paul in the very much upgraded Datsun 1200 with the Nissan engine. 49.19. That is indeed a competitive time, getting up to the hairpin.
In the early years, the hairpin was always a great subject of debate. As to where the tyre should be. It was moved in, moved out, and competitors, there was always opinion, and they always try to get it moved to someplace every year. I think in the year that's where there's no more discussion.
1:18.00, so that does put him in fact into the top 3 overall for this class at the moment. Fastest is still, as we mentioned, is Derek Asen on a 1:13, Bert Murray on a 1:14, and now then Paul Mullen on a 1:18. So that's the way it's looking early on in the first qualifying run here of the Winmax brake pads Ashley Forest Rally Sprint, with our live streaming coverage brought to you by Winmax, Magnum, Carter's Tyre Service, British Safety and Import Parts. It's car number 34, gets ready to go. And as we mentioned, here he is back in the Altessa. Oh, this is Jim Tennant. Out of the Nissan 240 and into the Toyota Altessa. So going from one generation of car to something slightly more modern. Giving himself 2 chances at honours in the class is Jim. So it'll be interesting to see how this car compares to the 1:29.9 that he did in the Nissan 240 RS just a few runs ago. What can we see from Jim Tennant as he gets towards the Halla hairpin?
So he's safely through the top, 51.74 to the top.
Off the start line, little drama there from Jim has cost him a bit of time getting up the hill. Only run one in the flat out here, he's got to get up
He had a pretty bad start, so it won't be the best of times, I wouldn't think, by his own standards.
But it would certainly be interesting.
Lights on, here he comes through the finish line, Jim Tennant in the Toyota Altessa, car number 34. 1:22.94. So, well, there we are. He went just under 2 seconds faster than the Nissan 240. As we wait for Shane Sky.
You're moving now.
In the North Island. And he's sponsored by Graham Auto Care Levin. And this is the car which was built in 2013, first driven by Jeff Wolfe. So good start off the line here. Oh, that's Chuck's. motorsport highlights, if you like, include rolling 2 of his starlets, and he's won 4 sprints in the North Island in the two-wheel drive class. Looking good. Drive car, because I'm sure they were confused. They thought that obviously a 4-wheel drive car was beating them. Apparently it was a 2-wheel drive car. And that's a great time to the split. That is the quickest we've seen so far in the unlimited 2-wheel drive, and it's the quickest of the day. It is a 46.41. So that
come up. Watch out, your head, please.
Split time we've seen. Sorry, that is the second quickest split time of the day. Well, it's a Wolfe and sheep's clothing, I tell you. Shane McKay has done a very, very quick time. Started at the age of 30, now 53. 1:15.02. I think we'll just put him around about third spot. Yeah, so that is the second quickest split through the year for the quarter there at 8. The quickest one is a record breaker. This is the MR2. MR220. Chris Hayes from Moscow. Well, fastest time previously in the 102. Sponsored by Steve Hollinger Contracting, Black Casting, Molson Holdings, Winchester New Zealand Limited, Full Machinery, East Coast Passenger Services, Commercial Hire New Zealand, RJ Paint, Panel and Paint, Auto Parts No Cargo. So no short stop, and he is the current record holder. Will be looking for those times to go out the window previously. This should be the fastest time.
Righto, Curly Hay from Moscow on the line. He's a long-time competitor here. He's a MR2, turbocharged MR2. He actually broke the 2-wheel drive lap record here last year. Curly's been around since the 80s, in the days when Barry Robinson, in fact, from Southland was one of the top competitors, and that's where he got his interest in this event, and he built this wee car. It's a Nissan 2-litre motor in it, turbocharged.
Beautiful piece of engineering, this car. It's just great to see it heading around the Ashley Forest Rally Sprint course.
Won the two-wheel drive trophy 3 times, and he'd go for title number 4 this weekend. Well, I tell you what, Nathan, I just about put my house on it. At this time will be under 110. You're just about.
So 28 years before breaking the record. Certainly this car's been a work in progress. And great to see it out here on the course.
We'll go under 110. This should be the first time here today under 110. There's a lot of pressure for the guy, speaking him up. We know he's fast though. We know Chris Hay is fast. This is only run 1 of the weekend.
So we're here in the background talking about maybe him doing a 110. That's a pretty quick time in this field, isn't it?
I remember that the 110 was the time, was the magic time back in 1980. And that was the time of the winning time set by John Wolfe back in 1980 was a 110. So there we are.
Progress.
That's yeah, it is. Certainly it is progress. But it's only been in the last, I guess, 10 years that, you know, that minute mark has been threatened every time.
Yeah.
It was a huge magic figure before, but these days there's quite a few that might go under the minute now.
And of course, it's not just horsepower that makes that record fall. In fact, it's the advancement in technology of suspension in particular that helps these cars stay to the road, go faster.
I think that's probably the biggest part of it. You know, the technology. We've had turbocharging, etc., and big horsepower forever, haven't we? Well, not turbocharging, but it's a recent thing really, but that's the last 20 years, so yeah, it is. It's all about the roads, about the handling and sophistication of cars is more, that's what we're trying to say, isn't it?
And that's one of the points that Paddon made, talking about his attempt here, that when the top 3 cars come out, the big ones, his one doesn't have the most horsepower, but he's hoping that he will make it up, any disadvantage up with better suspension.
Yeah.
And no doubt he's brought some pretty trick suspension back from overseas, so his car probably will handle very, very well, no doubt, on this course. But in the meantime, we wait now for Chris Hay to get underway from Mosgiel. in this fabulous
And he's
Toyota
elected I
MR2.
believe this is his 14th year at the Winmax. Brake pads, Ashley Forrest, Rallysport. Of course, I think the first time he was here was in a
Just great to see such a great crowd out so early in the day, Lindsay.
Well,
This is tremendous.
for those of you who saw the pictures early on, I think we both commented we'd never seen so early on a Saturday morning that they're streaming up the hill here. So, and I think the attraction is indeed one Hayden Paddon, who in fact competed here back when he was 14 years of age, and he's always been fixated by this. That's why he's here. It just goes back to his days as a kid, coming up here and competing early on, and like he was this time last week he was in Turkey.
Exactly.
And to get back here to want to do this event says a lot, doesn't it?
Indeed, and not only that, of course, Hayden through his Winmax brake pads franchise is sponsoring the event as well. So Hayden putting back into the sport, and that's fantastic to see. And of course, Hayden's also helping us in supporting the live streaming coverage as well, which is going out through various Facebook pages, and no doubt it's on Hayden's Facebook page. So all those tuned in through Hayden's page, welcome and good morning to you all.
Unless I'm mistaken, as Murray Walker might say, Grant, talking about Hayden's company putting something back in, dare I say that very few of our international stars have really put much back into motorsport in New Zealand.
You are so correct.
We certainly won't mention names or anything, that's not protocol, and we would never do that, but from my memory and my knowledge, very few have invested back in their own country and where it all started. And here's Hayden, one of the latest cabs off the rank to make international stardom, has done so.
And he's done that through the Paddon Foundation, where he's paid things like entry fees for locals, invited club people just to put their entries in to get a little bit of assistance. Because no doubt Hayden knows, even when you're running at club level, every dollar is a precious dollar, and to help these guys out with an entry fee, a tyre, it's just, as you say, fantastic to see Hayden giving back to the support the sport that supported him so well. So thank you, Hayden. Not quite sure why we hold up is here for Chris Hay to get underway on his run in the first qualification run, but while we are waiting, it gives the spectators a chance to stream up the hill. Of course, quite a few vantage points around the course, on the inside of the course, of course, and it's a great venue for people to move around and see the cars in various locations.
Sisters are doing a fundraiser barbecue, and Magnitude Coffee are up there serving coffees.
Just waiting for Chris to fire his car up, and while we're waiting for Chris to do so, just another mention to our live streaming sponsor partners, and a special thanks to British Safety. If you'd like to go in store to British Safety, and you'll find them in fact at 591 Horswell Junction Road, Hornby and Christchurch. If you pop into the store between now and the end of September, you mention Ashley Forrest Rally Sprint, you'll get a 15% off your new John Bull or Blundstone footwear, and they'll give you a free gift with purchase as well. So pop into British Safety if you're needing any sort of screen printing gear, monogramming, safety clothing, work clothing, corporate clothing, teamwear. Ensure you and your staff get your branding out there. They're open from 7:30 to 5:30. All workwear, wet weather gear, high-vis clothing, disposable overalls, gumboots, work boots, slip-on, lace-ups. They've got it all. Fleecies, jerseys, jackets, vests and polos. British Safety, one of our live streaming partners today at 591 Horswell Junction Road in Hornby, Christchurch. And don't forget, pop in the store, make a purchase, you'll get 15% off those John Bull or Blundstone footwear before the end of September, and a free gift as well from British Safety.
And we were all wondering in the caravan for many years whether it would be Trevor Crowe or Chris Hay that would break that two-wheel drive record. But Chris
and with the weather here in North Canterbury over today, well, certainly absolutely spectacular day today. Looks like tomorrow is going to be much the same, and the forecast has the the rain and the cold southerly coming in late Sunday, so we couldn't have picked a better weekend to hold the Winmax HD Forest Rally Sprint.
Looking at our view in front of us, Grant, which you people out there can't around the world, for those of you who I know who are watching and who've been here many times, the site on the downhill run to the left-hand side, you would not believe now. There's two houses very near the road, two quite substantial houses, another one to be built. So fingers crossed that they are motorsport friendly people.
I understand and stand to be corrected that when the lifestyle blocks here were split up and sold, that there was part of the covenant was the fact that the rally sprint could continue on for a number of years. I believe it might have a life, but let's hope that life gets extended. But in the meantime, great to see the event back here this year on this course, which, as Lindsay mentioned, has been run since 1980.
Not every year. It's had a few years off time to time. In fact, there was one period there of 4 years when we felt it was all over, but not to be. There was good negotiations behind the scene, and now it's back on again. But yeah, it's got a wonderful history. There's been some shocking days, and like today was plenty of dust. There was fog. I remember when Tony Teasdale won in the Metro, 6R4, and yeah. Anyway, late 80, was it 87 or something, I think.
Yep.
The fog, you couldn't see him coming down the hill for the fog. It was that thick.
Nothing like that today. Absolutely brilliant, glorious North Canterbury day. And still just waiting for the course to get cleared, ready for Chris Hay to have his first run at the hill.
Repco Kaipoi, Repco Rangiora, Reed's Super Cheap.
In fact, it was 1987, and at Tony Teasdale won in the fog. He did a time of 105.
105, well.
And the fog, yeah.
And just to think that the Toyota MR2 that's sitting on the start line for Chris Hay, waiting to head up the hill now, has the two-wheel drive record at 102.15. So there we are. Even the very best that MG Metro could provide in that car of the day.
Yeah, it was.
The MR2.
The Metro was indeed a works, well, based on the works car. Teasdale's car wasn't a works car, but it was a Group A. No, it was a Group B car. Yep. Yeah, so it was works formatted, but it didn't have the extra bits.
Now, there's only ever been 3 drivers that have won this event 3 times, and of course, that is Steve Murphy, Kim Austin, and Matt Summerfield, and only one of those drivers is in the field today, and that's Matt Summerfield. Matt this year in the Subaru.
Our first winner we're talking about before, John Wolfe, back in the RX 3980. John went to the States after that. Him and Grant Whittaker, his co-driver, went to the States because rallying was big in the States then. It was really taking off the ground, and unfortunately they were killed in a rally accident in the States. So we only saw John ever once here at Ashley Forest. It's actually his brother-in-law was Paul Adams, and in that first event, Paul was those two were the finalists. Yeah, so it was a family affair, and then Paul Adams won the year after.
And of course, another famous winner of this event, the Millens, of course, they headed off to the States as well, followed that path to the States, and certainly Rod and did particularly well with Mazda in American rallying.
Yeah, well, it was all about the same time, and I think Rod was one, and Steve actually encouraged John to have a look at rallying in the States, and of course, but Rod used to come home, and still does,
yes,
to this day. Lives in both countries now, but yeah, in those days he came home a lot and did this event. For some reason, this event is a magnet.
And of course, these days, Rod, of course, also runs the Leadfoot Festival, which is a very popular tarmacs.
Yeah, that certainly has become so, and at Rod's driveway.
Yes.
And I've been there for the very first one. It's a bit like Goodwood. It's on the Goodwood Festival Speed sort of style in the UK. And yeah, it's a wonderful place.
Yeah, and the biggest attraction of that event is it's often an exhibition of wonderful cars, isn't it? So
yes.
Just getting the opportunity
That's
to
what
run
he's trying
up
to
there.
do. Yeah.
And,
Brand Mechanical Limited, the Rally four-wheel drive.
I mean, the only problem there with Rod's event is the problem is the logistics of getting there. It's in the Coromandel. It's deep in the bowels of the Coromandel. Unlike what we've got here in Rangiora, we're only 30 minutes from Christchurch Airport, so there's a whole lot of difference. But nevertheless, it is the circuit equivalent of what we have here. Yeah. Right. This is better. This is much better here. Grant, this is much better here. I mean, apart from the dust, this is much better.
Welcome back into the live streaming coverage here of the Winmax Ashley Forest Rally Sprint. The Momat crew all back in position. The course car has just been through. There must have been a problem on the course, just waiting for that to be cleared so that Chris Hay can fire up his car and get ready for his first run up the mountain and down. So special thanks to our live streaming partners, of course, Winmax, Magnum, Carter's Tyre Service in Rangiora for British safety and import parts. Without their support, we would not be having the live coverage streaming to you today. As we wait for Chris Hay to get ready for the cars fired up, so we must be getting back into the action. Chris Hay, as we mentioned, from Mosgiel in the Toyota M2. This is the man who holds the two-wheel drive record currently, and be interesting to see what his first time in the class is. The fastest so far we've had has been a 1:13.11 from Derek Asen, so with a winning time of 1:02, there's a lot of time in this course yet. It'll be interesting to see what Chris lays down for his first run of the event this year.
Yes, there'll be nothing spectacular today. no one will show their hand at all today. Tomorrow when it all starts. But however, you have to get through today and qualify. That's very important.
Very efficient, and that car gets off the line and moves very nicely.
The first person to go under 110 here today at the Winmax brake pads, Ashley Forrest Rally Sprint. We're going to do better than a 45 to the Hella Hairpin.
Oh yeah, Chris is pretty accomplished competitor. He knows this course extremely well, and this wee car, as I say, he's built it from nothing, and it's a wonderful little car.
Mid-engine, they're well balanced.
Yeah,
it must be just a great car to be able to flick around the course like this.
Here in 1984 in the Mazda RX-3. He's been here 14 times in this MR2. And the time for the Hella Hairpin, 42.72.
Yeah, 42.72. He's the fastest to the top by quite some margin at the moment. So it's going to get quicker, that of course. But wonderful sight of him coming down the hill there, folks.
Oh, listen to the time. Listen to the time. 1:08.90 by half.
1:08.90. That is a spectacular time. That is a very good time.
For this time of the day, that is unbelievable when you consider that our winning time 1980 was a 1:10. Then we had a series of 1:08s all through the 1980s. 1:06 Reg Cook, 84. Then when it got quicker again, but 1:08s for the first 5 years won the event. And here it's been set in the first practice run today.
That is correct. And now we've got the Brand Mechanical Limited all-wheel
Coming up
drive
to
rally
the-
class. And first on the line is Richard Clark.
So into the four-wheel drive rally class competitors we go now, and Richard Clark is the first of our
Shearing and Wilkins Army.
entrants in this class.
So Richard Clark from Invercargill in the Subaru Legacy. And of course Richard last competed here.
Of course, the old Subaru Legacies back in the day when they came out, Lindsay, they were another trend-setting car in their time.
Well, they were the start of big things, weren't they? They were. They were the trendsetter, and of course, one Joe McAndrew is the one that I always relate to, the legacy, don't you?
Indeed. In those pro-drive cars, they... Yep, indeed. But of course, Joe went on, I think he won 6 New Zealand Rally Championships, or 5 or something.
I'm going to say 4, but I will confirm that. That was the legacy when it started, and of course, it was the Impreza that took over from that as their car.
Tyres finish line.
It's when the
Kumo Tyres finish line.
So Richard Clark competed here in 2009, where he finished 38th overall. Nice to see Richard back, and he makes the finish line on his first run in the four-wheel drive rally car class, and a 1:23.78 is the time for Richard Clark from Invercargill. Coming up to the start line now is car number 30, and this will be Michael Tom. And Michael Tom regularly comes to Canterbury to drive in rallies in this Evo 1, which he shares along with Sheldon Bell at times. So this time I think they're both sharing the car once again. Michael's the first to go on this car.
And of course, it was the Evo 1s that really came out to compete head-to-head with the Legacies. And that was the start of another a vintage reign of cars with the Mitsubishi and their Evos that went right through to their 10 Evo 10s, and Tommy Mackinnon was the name of Mitsubishi, wasn't he?
Yes, and those Rally Out name, of course, was well known and tied up with the Mitsubishis for many years. So Michael Tom, of course, a lot of people will remember Michael not so much as a gravel driver, although we mentioned he has been doing the odd rally and rally sprint lately, but Michael competed in the New Zealand touring cars for 16 years. It's the second time he's come to Ashley Forest Rally Sprint. As we mentioned, we're sharing the drive in this car, which the history of this car actually is the ex-Todd Borden, Chris Barnes and the Sloane Cox Evo 1. And of course, as you mentioned, Michael is sharing this car with Sheldon Bell. So between those two, no doubt, that's just one lot of competition to see who's the fastest out of those two, let alone where they end up in the rally car class.
Gating all the way down to the finish for a time of 1:11.85.
1:11.85. That's a very good time for Michael Tom. And yes, indeed, the second quickest time of the day so far.
You mentioned the name Chris Barnes before, Grant. Chris was a competitor here in the early days. Lovely character. Chris drove a little turbocharged Renault.
That's right.
And always there, and came from the top part of the North Island. Unfortunately, like Kim Austin, he was killed in a road accident. In
Helicopter.
Sorry, yeah, helicopter.
That was quick off the start line. That certainly had that was very, very quick off the line. So that's Sam Gardner in car number 29 from Woodend. It's second year of competing, and he's making his debut at the Ashley Forest Rally Sprint and on gravel.
Fancy bringing the dog.
In the car, it has done a lot of local events, tarmac-wise, and second overall.
3-litre engine in the Safari Legacy RSR for Sam Gardner, car number 29.
But that start of his, that would be out of the textbook for him. I bet he couldn't pick that again as good as that.
Yeah.
We shall see.
45.65 the split time for car 29 of Sam Gardner from Woodend. So this should be just over the 1:10 mark, somewhere between 1:11 and 1:14. For Sam Gardner, he sends his way down the hillside, through the dipper and down through the right hand.
Just waiting for Sam to come through the finish line. Here he is.
Should see a time this time. 1:15.56.
1:15.56 for Sam Gardner from Woodend in the Safari Legacy RSR. As we wait for the next car, which is another one of the Mitsubishi Evos. This is an Evo 2 version, and car number 28 is Craig Cox. He's raced ATV quad bikes before moving on to rallying. This is the first time competing at the Ashley Forest Rally Sprint, and of course they did have the ATV bikes here for a number of years. And who could not forget the famous Finchy coming down here on his ATV bike, setting a time that I think went into the top 6 fastest.
Yeah. We only had them here for 2 years, I think, and unfortunately there was a terrible accident involving one of them, and we've never seen them again. But it was Ian Fitch from Amberley.
Yep. Of course, talking about Mr. Fitch and his ATV, of course, his young sidekick of the day, he always tried to beat him, and I don't know whether he actually ever did beat him in the end, but was Shane van Gisbergen. Of course, Shane started off in ATVs, and I remember coming down here and going to an event with Shane, and then of course his passion was always to get into circuit, and after winning the Speed Sports Scholarship went on and did his apprenticeship through Formula Fords, Toyotas, and of course, as we know, V8 Supercar champion and currently leading that's V8 series at the moment, and a great effort at Sandown last weekend to finish second overall. But back to the gravel of Ashley Forest Rally Sprint as we wait for Craig Cox and the Mitsubishi Evo 2 to come to the finish line.
And I must comment, Grant, about Shane van Gisbergen and his PR skills that have improved dramatically over the years, and I think one Grant along beside me had a fair bit to do with grooming young Shane for the public world.
He's still shy, but a great competitor, and yes, he has warmed a lot.
Craig Cox, Not a bad effort for a first timer here at the Winmax brake pads by Paddon Rallysport.
First time here for Craig Cox.
2018 edition. Next car on the line, this is car 27.
And we have car number 27 now, another Mitsubishi Lancer. This is Nigel Lawson from Allentown. Now Nigel's been a navigator for over 20 years, so here's another navigator who's hopping into the steering wheel side of the car for the first time. And the first time for him competing at the Ashley Forest Rally Sprint. Nigel Lawson, car number 27.
Of course, first timer here for Nigel in the Ashley Forest Rally Sprint. He always wanted to run it, watch it on TV. So great for Nigel to finally get his...
Yeah, good.
Now for Nigel Lawson, car number 27. To have his first attempt at the Ashley Forest Rally Sprint course at speed for Nigel. As I say, 20 years as a navigator, first time as driver.
Building up the red and left on off.
Good launch there too for Nigel as well.
Nice take from the line for Nigel Lawson.
That's a good word, launch, Grant. I've never ever used that in anything. Launch. I always think of that of Cape Canaveral and spaceships.
Probably by the time we get down to the top two, it will be.
But it will
something
be.
like that.
Yeah, it's a good, very good phrase, that.
Craig Cox also was a first time run this weekend. Nigel Lawson in the same boat, so we'll see how confident Nigel can be getting up through the uphill kick and notice before he gets
So
to
we
the
see
hairpin.
Nigel heading up towards the hairpin.
Shouldn't be too far away from the split, should just be about the hairpin.
And we haven't seen the four-wheel drive guys having quite the little the spins that the early two-wheel drive guys had. So
Nigel Lawson
everyone.
to the hairpin, so roughly about where I said he would be. The 45,
Of course, we're talking about the legacy and the Mitsubishi's Evo 1s before. That was the start of four-wheel drive.
Yes.
And, you know, that was revolutionary. It was revolutionary. And today it's just taken for granted that perhaps half the cars here on the road run four-wheel drives.
through the trees he comes.
But there's one aspect that worries me coming up soon, Grant, and that's, dare I say it, electric cars on this course.
Heaven forbid.
Yes.
So not quite quick as the guys before him, a little bit slower on the downhill section. The overall time 1:17:57.
1:17:57 for Nigel Lawson. But for someone who's been a navigator and first time in the seat, that's not such a bad time. Good on you, Nigel. No doubt his big aim for the weekend will be to get faster and faster,
1:85.
as they all do.
Willie
Hawes, car number 26 from Christchurch, in a Toyota Celica. Now, talking about four-wheel drive cars, we don't see too many of the Toyota Celicas competing.
No, not now. And of course, they were when Toyota ran in the WRC years ago. Of course, it was Carlos Sainz in a car like this that won the World Championship in '92 or thereabouts. Yeah.
Not too many Celicas rallied in New Zealand. Of course, well-known Toyota man Ross Meekings rallied several Celicas in his time, and in fact he became the only person to get one of those shape model cars, Toyota Celicas, to win the Group N rally, the Group N of a World Rally Championship. The only time it ever happened for Toyota, and it was a double win in fact in New Zealand because Ross Meekings won Group N and Carlos Sainz won the overall event that year. So the first time Toyota and the only time they ever had a 1-2 in two different classes. So Willie Hawes and his Toyota Celica, and the paint scheme of course is the same as it was in design by the Toyota cars, the TTE cars, except they were green, red and white. And Willie has his car in black, green and orange, but the same livery design as Willie comes down towards the finish line.
The trees, here it comes through the Blair's Engine Tyres finish line. This should be a cracking time. 1:11:09, so not
1:11:09 for Willie, as you hear the turbo and the wastegate and everything as he comes down across the finish line. Willie Hawes,
goes quickest so far in the brand
his fourth time here
rally four-wheel drive
in
The next car on the
at
line.
Ashley Forest.
This is car 25.
So car 25 now having his first attempt at the Winmax Ashley Forest Rally Sprint, and this is Scott Jones, who comes from Pleasant Point in a more modern Mitsubishi Lancer Evo. This is an Evo 8 version of the Lancer, and Scott's been competing in rallies, rally sprints and hill climbs for the past 9 years. And this is the car that was previously owned by Regan Ross and Marcus Van Klink. And Scott Jones from Pleasant Point, his best placing was 3rd overall here in 2013. First of the Evo 8s to hit the course today.
Hasn't yet managed to break the minute mark. So that is a good goal for Scott Jones.
So Scott Jones
First run of the weekend, but I'm sure he
on his first run, and he's been here more than several times before. Hasn't got under the minute mark yet.
that is the quickest
Ooh,
today.
quickest of the splits.
So Scott Jones certainly not slagging behind.
So if he has a good downhill run, this could be a very good time for Scott.
Getting through the Flower Hotel dipper and waiting for it to appear. He comes through very quickly through the Kumo Tyres.
Here he is.
There's engines and tyres. Finish line.
Scott Jones.
Should be an okay time. 1:07.84. So
1:07.
He goes quicker than Chris Hay.
1:07.84. There we are. The fastest time on the course so far today, down to a 1:07.84, and very encouraging for Scott Jones in his quest for category honours in the rally car 4-wheel drive class. As we wait for our next Mitsubishi Evo to come to the line, an Evo 3 version once again. This is Sam Hurley from Rangiora. He started in 2011 in a rear-wheel drive Toyota Starlet, the best place to start, and now has progressed into a 4-wheel drive Mitsubishi Evo 3.
Sam will be looking to go just as quick as Scott Jones. Mitsubishi Evo getting his way up the hill. Evo 3 take on the curves and twists of the Forest Rally Sprint.
So just watching Sam Hurley on his way towards the hairpin, heading on the uphill run.
Arriving at the Hella Hairpin. So looking for a low 40s time, possibly mid 40s for Sam Hurley as he heads up towards the Hella Hairpin. We'll see what the clock says.
Good effort around the hairpin for Sam Hurley.
45.23 is the time to the Hella Hairpin for Sam Hurley. So still going to be a good time on the downhill descent through the Flower Hotel dipper. He comes, and those right hand turns to finish off the course before he appears round the side of the trees.
Here comes Sam on the downhill run now.
Comes around through, nice and clean approach so far. Cross
Nice
the
run.
Tyres finish line. And a 1:15.07 is the time that Sam Hurley
1:15.07 for Sam Hurley in the Evo 3. So the time to beat at this stage in this class, Scott Jones on a 1:07, and then we have Willie Hawes in the Select at a 1:11.09 and Michael Tom at a 1:11.85. As we get down to the faster cars in this class, and the next one to line up on the start line will be Corey McCaskill from Cromwell. No? Yep. So car number 23, Corey McCaskill from Cromwell, the Subaru Impreza. Competes in hill climbs, rallies, street races and track days. So this is the type of event that just suits Corey, and it's the 3rd time he's competed at Ashley Forest. His best placing here, 18th overall in 2016. So nice to see Corey back from Cromwell.
followed to Cromwell, Rain and Sea Cafe. Cromwell to the hairpin for the split time.
Up to the hairpin he goes, waiting for a split time to come through.
42.18.
42.18. That's a good split time for Corey. He keeps it all together on the downhill run. That should be another good time. That's a great fast time through the flying finish. And Corey McCaskill's time 1:07.94. So that's very close to the fastest time so far that Scott Jones has put down at a 1:07.84, and there's Corey McCaskill in a 1:07.94. Very, very close. As Mike Baltrop from Christchurch in the Subaru WRX, car number 22, comes up to the start line for his first run of the weekend. And Mike's been around this event and rallying and rally sprinting in North Canterbury for many years. They were talking about WRXs in history, and there we are. This car was the very first WRX that was model that was rallied in New Zealand. So not sure where it came from, what its history is, but there we are. It's,
I wonder who would have pedalled the film with the first WRX. Could have been Joe McAndrew. I don't recall Joe ever being in a...
We'll send our scouts out to ask Mike what the history of that car was, because it'll be interesting to see who in fact had the first WRX. I mean, it could have well have been some club person who ran a car before anyone else officially.
But it could have been Possum too.
Could have been.
Yeah.
Could have been indeed.
Yeah, I'm thinking towards Possum now, actually.
Time for Mike Baltrop, so again, similar times to what the previous runners have been.
As we get down to the fastest guys in this rally car four-wheel drive class, the times are all getting a bit closer, and it will be the battle we expect it to be over the weekend. And Mike Baltrop sets a time of 1:10.64.
So still a good run for Mike.
So that still puts him the third fastest so far in the class, but the 1:07.07s are the ones we are looking to beat. Here comes Sean Haggerty from Rangiora, car number 21. The third time that Sean has competed at the Ashley Forest Rallysport. Another very good launch there from Sean, car number 21.
A wonderful takeoff, wasn't it?
It was. And his best result is 8th overall here last year. So no doubt Sean will have at least 8th overall in his sights. But looking at the top end of the field being a wee bit thicker this year, that may be a little bit harder. But hey,
it's just
a gauntlet.
Another demonstration there on that start line of the four-wheel or all-wheel drive specs converse to the rear wheel or just front wheel drive. It certainly means a lot on a course like this.
He's around the hairpin for Sean Haggerty.
Yeah, Sean's doing double duty this weekend. We'll check the time at the Halla hairpin. 42.51 for Sean Haggerty.
42.51 to the hairpin.
The car was built up by Possum Ball Motorsport.
Oh, here, this is a Possum Ball Motorsport built car.
Player Hotel, he's past there.
And
across the finish line now.
Across the finish line comes Sean Haggerty.
108.38. That'll put him round about third or fourth position.
108.
You're looking,
108. Good time for Sean. So that would put him third fastest so far.
It actually puts Chris Hayes' time into good perspective, doesn't it?
It does indeed.
Yeah.
It really does. Here comes Jeff Judd to the line, car number 20. And his Subaru Impreza. Jeff Judd, of course, from the Magnum Automotive Group, another one of our live streaming sponsor partners today. We thank Jeff for his support, and of course his son Taylor is in the 1300cc class as well. So father and son competing here today. Jeff gets ready to go, and another good launch from Jeff.
Could almost call Jeff Mr. Rallying in this part of the world. Yeah, Matt Summerfield's been the star on the horizon of recent years, but gee whiz, Jeff has competed, co-driven in Asia Pacific. He's competed. I recall him winning the West Coast Rally back in the 80s.
Yes.
And he's still driving in rallies and not so much co-driving, but yeah, he's Mr. Rallyer.
And for someone who does both co-driving and driving, he must be the most successful one who does dual duties in the country, I would think.
I would agree with that. I would say over the years that Jeff would have been the most successful of dual duties. There's no one else I can remember who had success in both like he has.
And as you mentioned, the support that Jeff provides for the sport of rallying is just to mention in the number of cars you'll see take off the start line that have Magnum signage on it, his company that he supports. So a tremendous ambassador for the sport, Jeff Judd. Car number 20, and he started out in motorsport in 1981, as you mentioned, as a co-driver. So here comes Jeff Judd, and Jeff's time 106.68. So there we are, the gauntlet's down, and the four-wheel drive rally car class. That's the fastest time so far, 106.86 for Jeff Judd. As Jason Clark comes up to the line, and Jason comes from Havelock in his Mitsubishi Evo 5. This is Jason's third time at the Ashley Forest Rally Sprint. He finished 7th overall and won the four-wheel drive rally class here last year. So last year's winner, car number 19 in the four-wheel drive rally car class, Jason Clark from Havelock in the Mitsubishi Evo 5. So another very efficient takeoff for Jason Clark. And as rallying through the years has come to know the Subaru Mitsubishi battle, it looks like that's the way it's going to be in the four-wheel drive class here again this year.
Finished 7th overall and won the Rally Forward Drive class last year. So Jason looking pretty good. He's moved up. Still some good names though left in the
another lot of a good contingent coming down from the Marlborough region. Lots of good competitors and from the car clubs up there that have come down from the likes of Havelock and Nelson, Blenheim. 40-44 for the split. That is a very good time.
Yeah, it's a very good time.
And he's coming very quick downhill.
So we'll see what
nice run for Jason Clark.
And he's downhill already through the Kumo Tyres finish line. 106.35.
Here we go, 106.35. That's our quickest today. That was a very, very good run there from Jason.
And on a short course like this too, you will see those fractions come into play. We're talking like half a second there.
Yep, we will be.
And this is what it'll come down to.
It will come down to tomorrow. Well, even today, I guess, with the 32, around that 32 mark, who's gonna make the 32 and who's not? It's very important.
ITS Tyres, Richard Bateman Motors car.
Richard Bateman on the start line, car number 18.
Another one that's
Richard Bateman in the Mitsubishi Evo 9. Richard's competed 8 times at the Ashley Forest Rally Sprint. He's also competing in the New Zealand Rally Championship this year as well. If I recall, Richard actually started off his four-wheel drive rallying in Subarus, but he's moved into the Evo 9, a later model car, and Richard from Blenheim will be gunning it to try and get top honours here in the four-wheel drive rally car class of the Winmax Ashley Forest Rally Sprint.
Just looking for the split time at the hell here, but well, the first under 40.
The first under 40 for the split, 39.72 for Richard Bateman. So they are just getting quicker and quicker.
Richard Bateman currently 7th in the mainland series. And here he is, over the Kumo Tyres finish line, at a time of 1:04.59. That is the
1:04.59. So here we are. He's started to shave a second and a half already off the fastest time. So 1:04.59. Richard Bateman. As local hero Matt Summerfield pulls up to the line in the Mitsubishi, in the Subaru Impreza. Of course, I was going to say that Matt Summerfield drives the Mitsubishi Mirage AP4 car in the New Zealand Championship.
Yeah, this car is just a normal rally spec this year. They haven't done anything to it. There's no big turbos on it or anything like that. It's just a normal rally spec, and it's not. And of course, he has been running a updated, modern Mitsubishi Mirage of recent times in the Rally Championship. So this is just a run, I guess, today.
Indeed.
Tomorrow.
They still have the Subaru Impreza in the Autotech Services workshop, so they've pulled it out. They've been very busy getting the engine rebuilt for this event because they've had a little bit of trouble. He ran this car, as we mentioned earlier. We talked about him taking the good dentist for a ride down in the Catlins in this particular car, and they suffered overheating problems, and they've had that dogging them this year on the car. They've tried all sorts to overcome that issue. A 1 minute odd run is not going to get too much of an issue, I guess, for overheating, but the car is up and running. Matt is a 3-time winner here on the Ashley Forest Rally Sprint course, and down he comes.
And he's there flying downhill. 1:04.36. I think he may have just eclipsed
1:04.36. Indeed, Matt Summerfield now the fastest in this class. Richard Bateman's 1:04.59 now dropped to a 1:04.36 by Matt Summerfield from Rangiora. And Eric Clark now lines up from Invercargill in his Subaru Legacy. Eric also competes in Hill Climbs, Rally Sprints and the Mainland Rally Series. The second time competing here for Eric Clark. And Eric Clark competes in the Mainland Rally Series in Class E, which is for pre-72 four-wheel drive cars, and I think Eric Clark is currently in second place in that Mainland Championship this year.
He's sponsored by Strange Automotive, a road safety Southland, and About Joinery, also AV Equipment.
So Eric Clark up here just a few weeks ago with this car competing in the Hamner Forest Rally, and now back here for the Rally Sprint at Ashley Forest. 44.04 is Eric's times to the split. On the downhill run comes Eric Clark from Invercargill, heading towards the finish line, and let's see what he stops the clock at.
1:15, and that's a minute quicker than what Chris Hayes' record is currently in the unlimited two-wheel drive class. Okay, the time there for Eric Clark, 1:11.88.
1:11.88 for Eric Clark in the Subaru Legacy. And here's another one of the dual drivers coming up, as we mentioned earlier that Michael Tom drove this car. Now car owner Sheldon Bell is behind the wheel as car number 15, Sheldon from Christchurch. The Mitsubishi Evo 1, we mentioned this car is the previous, the late Chris Barnes, Leanne Barnes, Todd Borden car. Not a bad launch from Sheldon Bell. Who Sheldon spent many years working in the pits for the likes of the Wade Henshaw in the Mike Perro Holden Commodore New Zealand V8 touring car days, and when in fact he decided to take up have a go at rallying He joined Wade in the co-driver's seat, and then eventually decided he wanted to have a crack as well. Bought his own car and has been competing since. Does some of the mainland rally series events, and keen to do Ashley Forest as he's done.
I'm not sure what sort of mixture he's burning in there, but it smells pretty sweet.
Sheldon Bell.
The split time for Sheldon Bell to the Halle Hairpin.
Of course, talking about brews in the car, of course, there's nothing that says you can't have yourself a special high compression brew in this game, is it? Because there's no controlled fuels here. She's open book.
You can even run an electric car, Grant.
Shush, Lindsay.
Heaven forbid. It's wash mouth out material.
106.39. That's a great effort for Sheldon Bell.
So the next car coming up to the line
So
should be car 14, and this is Sean Haggerty.
Car 14, Sean Haggerty.
Going back to stock. Car 13, this is Nick Clark. 34 years of age from Christchurch in the Mitsubishi Evo 6 RS. Now he's been a Raytech member for 4 or 5 years.
So
And he's sponsored
Sean
by
Haggerty is
Paddon
on dual duties again.
and Retro Gaming. Acadia Bar, sorry, Acadia Bar.
So Sean Haggerty's best result is making it into the top 8. No doubt a goal he's got on his mind this year as well.
Of course, in the overall scheme of things, whilst running the first run, these runs are important because at the end of the day today, it's your quickest time that will either get you through to tomorrow or it won't.
That's right.
For the last 32. And for the classes as well, because they're bringing the last 3 back for the classes.
Yeah. And once you've set a time, even if you have a mechanical on one of the runs, you've still set a time that can be considered to go through to the top 32.
Going through the Flower Hotel zipper roundabout now.
Waiting for Sean Haggerty to come across the finish line for his first run at the Ashley Forest Rally Sprint course.
Here he comes over the Kumo Tyres finish line in a time of 1:11.06.
1:11.06.
Okay, it should be Mark Peterson.
And that, I think, in fact, was Mick Clark. Apologies there.
Okay, it's
Mark Peterson is the next one to line up on the Rally Sprint course. 4th time competing here for Mark in the Subaru Impreza STI. And his 2nd year back in motorsport after having a little hiatus. Mark gets the Subaru off the line, heading up the course.
That he is actually in the brand mechanical rally four-wheel drive. So that's why he is up next after Nick Clark. So Mark Peterson is in the rally four-wheel drive class. And he is making his way up the hill in the Subaru Impreza STI. He's got to navigate the uphill kink and notice before he can get to the Halle Hairpin where he will get a split time. Where he's been rallying for 10 years.
Mark Peterson on his way up to the hairpin. 10 years in the game for Mark Peterson.
And the time for the Halle Hairpin for Mark Peterson, 46.24.
46.24 to the hairpin. Oh.
The Halle Hairpin.
Just wait for Mark to make his way on the downhill run.
Very appropriate name, that hairpin. Hella good lights, but it's also a hell of a hairpin too, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, indeed it is.
As I've been talking about before, early days, I used to move the big tyre up there.
1:14.28 is the time.
1:14.28 for Mark Peterson. just wait for our next competitor to come to the line. A special shout out to the Magnum Group, and thanks for their support of the live streaming coverage. Automotive compliance specialists, import compliance, lapsed registration inspections, projects restoration vehicles compliance, accident write-off re-inspections, motorsport vehicle compliance, of course. They do warranty fitness inspections, servicing, all general repairs as well for all makes and models, and you'll find them in Dunedin and in Christchurch, the Magnum Group. Off the start line there goes Luke McLennan from Ashburton, and another one of the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 3s. The fifth time that Luke has competed at the Ashley Forest Rally Sprint. He's made the top 16 previously, so that's good for Luke. Just watching them going up through the trees there, Lindsay, you see obviously a shade, a bit of light. I guess later in the day, the sun might become an issue as they get down to the business end of the days.
Extremely so. When we used to have it in May, it used to be in May all the time, it was a huge factor going up that hill, and it is one of the reasons why it is in September. Only one of the reasons, but it was. It's that evening sun, particularly earlier on, is not good as you approach the hairpin too.
Here he comes through the Kumho Tyres finish line.
Just waiting for a time now for Luke McLennan, 1:11.71. So Luke McLennan, good time in his Mitsubishi Evo 3.
And here comes Jason.
And Jason McConnell will be the next one up, car number 10 in his Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 7. So here we are. The Jason comes from a stock car background, 12 years racing stock cars. So sixth time at the Ashley Forest. Not in the stock car though. Another very good efficient launch, quickly plucked that gear and kept the car moving so it didn't bog down.
You couldn't get further removed from stock car racing, could you, doing this?
No.
Ho doesn't feel the need to belt a tree though.
Well, it's sponsored by High Tech Service Centre and High Tech Wheel Alignment.
Jason McConnell on the course at the moment in the Mitsubishi Evo 7, heading towards the hairpin.
Okay, the lunch break has been brought forward to after the first run of cars.
So getting closer to the business end of the field now, just 9 more cars to go. And then there will be a lunch break, but down to the finish line comes Jason McConnell.
Here he comes, full of pace. Jason McConnell across the line. Well, Jason will be happy with that time, but 109.08 for Jason.
109.08 for Jason McConnell. 109.28 for Jason McConnell. A good psychological advantage, I would suggest, knowing that you're down under the 10s, puts you in the thick of the fastest guys in the class. So Sean Haggerty is now coming to the line now.
Rally forward drive and limited. So you get 2 bites of the cherry if you like.
Oh, so Sean is running in 2 classes in this car. So in the 4-wheel drive rally car class and also in the unlimited. So no doubt they up-spec it a bit between the 2 runs. Be interested to see how he compares from one to the other. But Sean Haggerty.
So Sean will be looking to go better than his results from last year. And
it sounds like reasonable bit of boogie in that car for Sean Haggerty.
Today and the first run of tomorrow will be all about qualifying for the top 32.
So the first of our qualification runs coming towards the business end. Of course, they get 4 chances today to lay down a time to get into the top 32 when the eliminations do start. So we just wait for Sean to head up to the Hella Hairpin, as we thank once again our live streaming partners, Winmax, Magnum, Carter's Tyre Services in Rangiora, Brita Safety and Import Parts.
40-51 to the Hella Hairpin.
40-51, so another one, Sean Haggerty on the case.
So far out of the unlimited 4 drive cars. So here he comes, Sean Haggerty screaming down the hill. 105.02, so he was there.
105.02.
That's a good time, all right.
So Sean Haggerty in the unlimited class.
Come up to the line. This is Garrett Thomas in car number 9. This is Subaru WRC STI here from Darfield, of course. Good in automotive racing on the side of the Subaru. Also sponsored by
So Sean Haggerty actually just looked up the times when he ran the car as a 4-wheel drive rally car class. He did a 108. He's now put it in the unlimited class and got down to a 105. Garrett Thomas from Darfield here to lay car number 9 in the Subaru WRX STI. Garrett's having a great year this year. In fact, he finished second in the Hamner Rally.
Didn't do so well in the Canterbury Rally, I recall.
No.
An off-road incident I think he had, but rejoined. But yeah, nice car, goes well, and he's certainly a nice new name in the rally scene here, actually.
This year is Garrett Thomas behind Josh Marsden. Of course, Josh Marsden, if you don't know, he is the teammate to Greg Murphy in the Holden rally team here in New Zealand.
So yes, Garrett's certainly doing very well, and just his second year in motorsport, and the second time he competed at the Ashley Forest Rally Sprint, finished 19th overall last year. So, that's a good run downhill.
Well, here he comes over the Kumo time finish line.
106.16 for Garrett Thomas. So just over a second slower than Sean Haggerty.
Now we have one Trevor Crowe, who I have to say is one of New Zealand motorsport's legends. He is probably Canterbury's most legendary motorsport figure. I guess circuit racing, what he's been known for more, but he also won this event in 1985 and was the first South Islander to win the event. He ran it in his Oscar Starlet, and there wasn't many modifications apart from suspension. I beg your pardon, it's not Trevor Crowe. There's someone in between them on my notes here. Who's number? So we start again with Trevor Crowe soon, because number 8 is in fact
Graham Bajering from Waihi.
And the Mitsubishi Starion
V8.
Yeah,
yes. Okay.
That's so obvious, the Mitsubishi Starion V8.
Yes.
And a car that I think is relatively famous on this course with people like Kim Austin, is it not?
Indeed, it is. Not the same car,
Not the same car.
but very, very similar.
Yeah, well, Kim Austin in a similar car, he broke the record here in a similar car.
Indeed. And in fact, that car is now sitting down in the Highlands Museum, owned by Mr. Tony Quinn.
To the Hella Hairpin. So that's through the Flower Hotel dipper around about now. Should be under a 110 this run for Graham Beechering.
So Graham's been racing since he was 15 years old, but only the second time he's managed to come down all the way from Waihi in the Coromandel to the Ashley Forest Rally Sprint.
109.30.
And of interest, it was when Kim Austin broke the record here was 9:99, and the time was a 56.99, and that was really the start of the seriously quick times.
Indeed.
So now we have the multi-talented Trevor Crowe with all these titles and awards, plus winning here in '85.
Of course, Trevor's also well known for all the odd, unusual cars that he's built up. From the V8 Starlets to the Justy to
Well, he ran here to the Scotas. Well,
Yep.
he, as I say, he won here in the Oscar Starlet. Trevor's early 70s now and still runs every day, still works full time, and still loves to compete.
He does. And I remember when the Gold Rush hill climb at Wanaka was on, and he would compete. He competed one day and then went and did a marathon the next day and came back and competed, wasn't it?
Something very similar to that.
Winner, South Island winner of the Winmax. Ashley Forrest rally sprints 2 downhill. 41.92 was the time for Trevor Crowe.
41.92 at the split.
See if he can do a great run coming down the hill. This should be around the 106 mark. 107.74 for Trevor
107.74. So the third fastest time so far in the Unlimited. Chasing Sean Haggerty in the 105.02. As we wait for car number 6, which is Neil Webb from Blenheim, and it is a Mitsubishi Mirage. However, it has,
and it is lightning quick. This car can scamper.
with Evo 3 running gear.
Had a good takeoff, wasn't it?
That was a good one.
It almost they launched it, Grant.
He did.
He makes his way up the hill. Of course, this is a Mirage with Evo 3 running gear. Third at Ashley Forrest back in 2000.
So there we are, Neil Webb and his Mirage with Evo running gear, and we've got another one of those coming up next because Mike Tall from Christchurch also has the same example, a Mitsubishi Mirage upgraded with Evo gear. So I guess those two will be having a good battle between them, and two cars very similar in make. Round the hairpin, 40.43 for Neil Webb from Blenheim. He's a two-time New Zealand hill climb champion and two-time New Zealand club sport champion. So Neil Webb knows what it's all about on this type of event.
If Neil Webb can navigate his way through the Flower Hotel, down through the finish line. Well, he's been under the minute before, so let's have a look at the time. 106.63, so a little less.
106.63.
Neil Webb.
So that puts him third fastest in the class currently on this first run of the day. As car number 5, Mike Tall, comes to the line. Mike rallies this car in the Mainland Rally Series, Mitsubishi Mirage with Evo gear. And Mike began competing in circuit racing on 2 wheels before switching to 4 wheels. Best placing at the Ashley Forest Rally Sprint, 2nd overall in 2012, and 5th overall at the Race to the Sky in 2015, the event we were just talking about a moment or two ago. So another one who's built a car that he can use in the Mainland Series. The car wouldn't comply for New Zealand Rally Championship, but fine for Mainland Rally Series and for doing events like this, rally sprints, autocrosses, hill climbs, which Mike is very keen on as well. Mike Tall.
First time this weekend. A lot of dust gathering down here at the start line. He makes his way up towards the uphill kick. Gets through there, navigates the left and right hand turn before he gets to notice that tricky right-hand turn.
That's a good run going up the hill towards the hairpin.
Of course, to the right-hand turn at the Halla hairpin. And we'll see a split time.
Nice run around the hairpin.
And the time at the Halla hairpin. 38.14.
38.14. There we are. The first one under 40. That's very quick.
For a good run here. Well, the former motorcyclist means business. He's raced motorcycles in Australia. What can he do over the finish line? It's going to be a cracker. Probably a 103 maybe.
So
102.04.
102.04. There we are. Mike Tall has put the gauntlet down early on. A 102.04 for Mike Tall.
And we're only on run number 1. Car 4. This
So
is Dunedin.
Glenn Frew from Dunedin, car number 4, and another Mitsubishi Evo.
And of course, Glenn Frew won here in 2007. And it was the years when the event was started. No disrespect to Glenn, because he absolutely deserved it, because he'd really taken it to Marty Rosberg in a few years prior to that. But it was sort of starting to wane a bit, but Glenn Frew lit the place up that time when he won it in 2007. But his time when he won it was 103.9, so yeah, he's a pretty serious challenger as Glenn Frew, all right. There's nothing factory about this Evo, I'll tell you.
Have a little off-course excursion on the way down the hill there. So he's got to get under 40 seconds to be as quick as Mike Tall. 38.14 is the quickest to the hairpin. What are we going to see at the Halla hairpin? Is it going to be a sub 40-second run up the hill for Neil, for Glenn Frew? Well, it could well be. I suggest probably in the 39s maybe.
So Glenn negotiates the Halla hairpin and starts the downhill run in his Mitsubishi Evo. 42.06 was his split at the hairpin. So
that was a bit slower. I'd say he must have had a bit of an issue going up that hill.
This should accumulate for still a good time on the downhill run. This should be in about the regions of a 106 to about a 108 time for Glenn Frew as he comes down through the hairpin.
Here he comes across the finish line.
1:10.55, but we have to be fair to Glenn because he hasn't been here since
1:10.55 for Glenn Frew.
Which we've just heard is his first time here in 5 or 6 years. So first time out, you've got to start somewhere, don't you? So I'd say he'd be pretty pleased with a 1:10.
And now here come the first of the big three, as we know. Alistair McRae in the Subaru Impreza World Rally car, the ex-Possum Board WRC car, and Alistair McRae all the way over from Perth, brother of course of the famous late Colin McRae. Alistair was a World Rally driver in his own right, lives in Perth these days.
Also won the British Rally Championship and the Asia Pacific Rally Championship.
Not the best.
Not the best of starts there, Grant. Did he miss a gear, I feel?
I think he did. It sounded like it. And I guess this is his first run in this car for a number of years. The car is owned by the late Possum Born's co-driver Craig Vincent in Vantage Subaru colours, and it comes out very occasionally. Not very often on gravel. It's been, as we mentioned, to Rod Millen's event up in Hey on the driveway, but it's wonderful that Craig Vincent's bought the car out and brought it down to this event and got Alistair over to compete. Man, this car is quick.
Here it comes over the Kumo Tyres finish line, and we'll check the time. 1:04.51.
1:04.51 for Alistair McRae. And I'd say by the time he gets that the gearing sorted out on the way up and gets used to it, he's going to be seriously, he'll be definitely under the minute mark for sure. As our own WRC World Rally Star, Paddon.
This is the man everyone's come to see, folks. The man who started here when the age of 14 and still rates this event as one of the best he does. He just can't stay away from it. This time last week he was in those shocking rows of Turkey doing a great job to finish on the podium again. So this is the one only had paid.
Look at that thing launch, look at it go. Incredible. Hayden Paddon, with basically the same car he uses in the New Zealand Rally Championship, but of course they've up-spec'd it. 700 horsepower it runs for this event, which when you consider over the top three is not as much horsepower as Alistair has at his disposal, or that Sloane Cox coming next has. But Hayden says the suspension geometry in this car, top of the line, he'll hope that'll help him make up any deficit he loses in horsepower. As we
a 35-36 to the top.
Woohoo!
So this will be close to the minute or just under the minute. Hold your horses.
That'll be under a minute, I'm suggesting.
It's coming down. What's he going to do as he comes across the line? We'll wait for the timing team. Oh, it's a cracker. 57-1-8.
57.
There we are, a 57-1-8 for Hayden
Take that.
Paddon. Take that. That's the benchmark. It's been well and truly set now.
Yeah, just looking at his first run time today, a 57. I mean, gosh, looking at the record books, that would have won it.
Yeah. Oh, there's one.
Yes, good. I mean, gosh.
Well, when he won here in 2011 in the Cordia, it was a 57-1-6. So he was right on his 2011 winning time then.
And here comes the current record holder and number one, Sloane Cox from Rotorua. Of course, this year Sloane has been over in Europe competing in the World Rallycross Championship in one of the development classes. And this hill climb Evo 8 Special, the ex-Andrew Hawkswood Evo 8, of course it was originally designed a space frame car that Andrew took over to the Pikes Peak hill climb.
Right.
And then came back. Marty Rostenberg, I think, also drove that car maybe. But there it is. It's been owned lately by Sloane Cox, who's been driving since the age of 12. And this car, 1,000 kgs and over 700 horsepower. Very, very quick car.
So it's no magic front like Hayden's up to the Halley hairpin, but it's just going to be a bang for Sloane Cox. It's the first run, so we'll see what he can do down to the hairpin. Will this be a sub-minute run? Well, he's certainly fast down the hill. 103.56 for Sloane Cox.
103.56, so there we are. That's the first run of the day completed, and it really is Hayden Paddon who's laid the gauntlet down at that 57.18. That's the best time. Mike Tall, the second fastest so far, at a 102.04, and then we have Sloane Cox on a 103.56. So the top three with Alistair McRae just outside. So Mike Tall is the one who's pulled himself up and put himself in the early stages up amongst those big top three, as we would say.
So before we move to our second round, there's a lunch break here on the course here, but we just want to acknowledge a lot of you viewers out there that have kindly tuned into this exciting coverage, and people from the Philippines, Osaka in Japan, Ballarat in Australia, Indonesia, Wales, the state of Maine in the USA, Germany, India, Gold Coast and Oz, Caloundra on the Gold on Queensland, and Hawaii, plus throughout other places in New Zealand. So I hope you people are enjoying this. We've had a few little hiccups here early on, but I think we're well underway now, and things are going to be great this afternoon and tomorrow.
And just great to see all this new technology, Wi-Fi technology working and bringing this live streaming to you. And just a special thanks to our live streaming sponsors, Winmax brake pads, Magnum, Carter's Tyre Service, British Safety, Import Parts. On behalf of the commentary team, we'll be back with you shortly.
Good, mate. Should you kill the